Good morning. Right. As you can see, we're getting on with it. Engine is on. Yeah, chassis is finished. It's Wednesday. I've got a class today. Right. And I spent Monday and Tuesday, a couple of days, sorting this out for it to look like you see it today. Is quite a nightmare. What happened? We decided when everything was set, we decided to put as you do, a level on it, right? And it was slightly off. It was about 3/4 of an inch, just under 3/4 of an inch lower on the left-hand side, on this side, right? So about 16 mil. And it was enough to piss us off. So because you have clearances, you have allowances in a way, and sometimes there is a bit of difference, but you leave it. But this one was too much. You could actually see it from the front. So we first, this was bent that way, this hanger, yeah, where the spring attaches, and this is a weak point apparently in these GPW Jeeps, right, from the war. So they tend to bend when you go on rocks and all that. They start bending. So basically, we heated it up and gave it this treatment, the sledgehammer treatment, and put it back in place. And then I put a bar through there and hung from here and just bent it down with a lot of heat, though. Now that's near enough perfect now, right? Then I released the U-bolts, right, which now you can see all the bolt, extra bolt on each one is more or less the same. It wasn't that before, which meant the U-bolts were slightly backwards, yeah, so they weren't actually straight. By doing that, we managed to bring this to the middle, which was good. But when I put the engine on, we realized this is not the engine that the war engine, it's a civilian engine. So this plate is different, yeah? Which means that in the military engine, it's about there. It's about an inch inwards, which means that engine mount fits there also. We had two of those. This was the engine mount that came out of it, which I cleaned up and put back on, because we realized that's what they've done. They've replaced that engine mount, as in this one on the other side, by that smaller one, with that smaller one. And I had to re-drill this plate to put it on, to make it absolutely spot on center, right? So that's what I did. Now it's all perfectly level, as you can see, yeah? I sprayed and put the prop on. I put the alternator on, which is a new thing. These vehicles, of course, came with dynamos, but alternator is much better, and that's prepared for this Jeep. So it brings that plate, and you can adapt it, and it all fits very nicely. Now, that's a new engine starter, a motor starter motor that we put in, and then and yesterday at the end I was dealing with the handbrake, and the handbrake in these vehicles is really interesting. The handbrake is like having a fifth wheel turning, you see, on the engine. Basically, it has two shoes, same as this. Yeah, what happens usually with handbrakes? Braking systems are pipes with fluid in them under pressure, right? With a pump, yeah, when you press your pedal, you have cylinders and a pump, and it pushes fluid through the pipes into pistons in the back, yeah? And let me see. These pistons, yeah, they come into the back of there, piston just expands, yeah, and there are two shoes like that, like this, yeah, They just go out, boom, like that. And on the inside of this housing, they just stop the wheel, right? Or create friction and the wheel stops. That's the other version of it, is having a disc and calipers with two, yeah. They're not shoes, they're what do you call them? Pads in them. And the caliper just grabs the disc as if it was a hand. It goes, yeah. It's a better system. The caliper is newer, better system. This basically, when this got wet, if water got in there, friction was less, so you couldn't stop and whatever. With the disc, it gets wet, it stops even better. So anyway, this is 1942, so it's an almost 80-year-old car, right? And a vehicle. Now, this is the interesting thing with the handbrakes. Usually, what you have is a lever that you pull up, and you have a cable. This is a clutch, right? But there's a cable like that, steel cable, that runs down the middle of the car onto this other lever here that separates and splits up into two ways, yeah. And basically, what that does, that lever actions the whatever it is, the calipers or the pistons or whatever at the end of the car. That locks the shoes into place really hard, and that you can't move the car, right? So it's a difference. There are two systems basically. One is through fluid in pipes, and one is through pulling on a steel cable, right? Now in this case, the steel cable comes here onto the end of the gearbox, and the gearbox has this housing over this fifth pair of shoes, in a way, right? It's like a fifth wheel, and the shaft, yeah, the power shaft is attached to it, and it's spinning with the engine, right? As you can see it from far is better. Yeah, so that's spinning, that's attached to that, yeah. And when you pull on your handbrake, that thing pulls out. Oh, yeah, it pulls towards. That pulls up, and these pull out, and they lock. Yeah. But they're locking it at that point where the gearbox is, instead of locking it where the wheels are. So that's that system, which frankly I'd never seen before. I had to learn about it with this Jeep, because what we do is usually classic cars, but it's interesting how that works. So it's basically like having a fifth wheel in the middle of the car. Yeah, and that's it basically. That's where I'm at. Still putting bits and pieces together, and now hopefully I'll finish that and attach the back axle to the gearbox too. So that's it. Yep. See you soon, mates. Pretty long video. Sorry about that.